Well, we're doing something a little different today, but I'm excited about it. We've got Al and Karen Hendry here with Under His Wings Regeneration Ministry. So let's welcome them. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have them come and share not just about their ministry, but the part leading up to the ministry, which is their own story of how they were regenerated. And I thought it would be good for us to hear that story, and then to hear about what God's doing already and what He's going to be doing in the future, best we can tell anyway. We always have a plan, and He has His own plan, and His is better. So.
His is way better.
Yeah. So what I thought we'd do is just kind of listen to them and hear about it. I've got some questions I want to ask, and this is going to be online, so it'll be on YouTube and on our website and app and all that. And I want to encourage you to share that video. Once it's up, it'll be up tomorrow around lunchtime. I want you to share that video so people in our town can find out that there's hope and there's help for things that are going on in your life, and they've got a lot of experience in this. So that's kind of what I wanted to do today. So tell us how you got into regeneration ministry. So there's a story leading up to that, which I think is an awesome story.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, the beginning of getting into the ministry is I ended up in addiction for 25 years. But 17 years ago, or maybe a little more than 17 now, let me back up a little farther. When I was 13 years old, I started drinking. And then it just went downhill from there. Before I even graduated high school, I was using cocaine. So 25 years after that, I ended up on crack cocaine and basically destroyed my family. Now, I hid it very well. We was married at the point where everything came to an end for 23 years, and Karen didn't know. So I was very good at hiding it. I planned things out, way in advance, had my cover stories, knew where I was going, what I was going to do, had the lie after lie lined up. I was very good at remembering my lies. But I got out of control, spun out of control, where it messed my thinking up, where I'm thinking, why wouldn't people want to live like this? Crazy thinking, to the point where I didn't even care who found out about it. A lot of people already knew. The law knew. They had pictures of me. They had been surveilling, all that stuff, took pictures, showed them to Karen, all those things. And her and Garrett, they come walking in the crack house and found me, So it was a very ugly scene. But after that happened, I went to a secular program, and I've shared this with Kurt and other people, but what I learned in the secular program was a better way to do drugs and alcohol. That's all we done, was sit around and smoke cigarettes and talk about how to do drugs better. I mean, it was the craziest thing I ever seen.
And that's called rehab.
Yeah, that was rehab there. That's what they call rehab. It was crazy because the day I left there, I was already back on. I told him, I said, hey, when I leave here, I'm going to get high. And did. And then it went drastically downhill from that point. But I knew, because I had been in church, I had had a relationship with the Lord before. I knew that there was a better way. And I didn't know how to get to that point. But we were, by this time, in the middle of getting divorced. I don't blame her. I told her, I said, I'm going to make you divorce me because I'm crazy. I know that my thinking ain't right. So, but it was a pretty rough time. And I worked out at the mill, and I knew that Earl Green was our employee assistance program manager. So I called him because I knew, Buckeye's catching on by now. I ain't worked in like 3 months. I had all of my vacation and days, the way it works out there I had a bunch of vacation and shift work and all that stuff. I didn't have to go to work. I just didn't go. But I knew that the end was coming. And I had somebody call me one night and tell me, don't come to work. They're waiting on you out here with the dogs. The law is they're going to get you. So, and I knew I already couldn't hardly talk from basically chemical laryngitis from smoking crack so much. But so I called Earl Green. He said, no, don't go to work. Come to my office in the morning. So I did, I went to Earl's office and, he asked me, why, what are you looking for? I said, I think I need a program with some Jesus in it. I know that that's what I need, So he prayed for me. That's the first time. Listen, I went to that other program, but ain't nobody prayed for me in there, But Earl prayed for me in his office that day. And I'm like, well, this is different, But he said, come back after lunch and let me do some checking. So I did. And he gave me a number. And he said, you got to call. I can't call for you. They want to talk to me about it. They got to talk to you. And, of course, I'm talking like this. I can't make a sound, And a lot of times my sister had to even talk for me because I couldn't make any sound come out. But it was a place called Dunklin down in Okeechobee. And that was the beginning of a life transformation, because I went down there, and they're asking me tough questions in the interview. And, of course, I had to own the thing, the stuff that was my fault that I did. I made the decisions to do it. But, I found out when I knew I was in pretty bad shape when they said, so they asked my mom and my sister, that took me down there. So if he calls, are you going to come get him? They said, no. If you'll take him, we ain't never coming back. He's yours. Well, I'm thinking, okay, I came to the wrong place. But, it did start something there. And I didn't want to be there, but I knew if I left, I was going to die. I'd already lost 97 pounds in 8 months. I mean, I was thinner than I am now.
Not a recommended diet.
No, that's not the best diet to be on for sure. You don't want to be on that one. But, there was a time I went out 8 days and nights I didn't eat anything. And I was pretty close to death by that point. And my mom was like, you need to let me take you to the hospital. I said, no, I'm not going to the hospital because I'll have to tell them what I am. Well, these days I don't mind telling you what I was.
Yeah.
I was that. But, while I was there, some things happened in that program. They teach you how to journal and, have a relationship with the Lord where you ask him questions and he gives you answers, and some of them answers you don't like hearing. Well, one morning, my kids were they went pretty mad. They were extremely mad at me, and I don't blame them. But I knew that I must not be who I thought I was because my own children won't even write me a letter, So I asked the Lord that morning, I said, so who am I? Obviously, I don't know who I am. And when he got through with me, I said, well, I don't want to be that person no more because it was ugly, I'm thinking I'm this wonderful dad, I do for my kids and, all that stuff. But a good daddy don't take their son to mow a yard somewhere because we had a little business going. A good daddy don't take his son to mow that yard and leave him there and for hours go to the crack house and won't answer the phone. A good daddy don't do stuff like that. A good daddy's not a daddy that his daughter works up there at the bank and they ask her what your daddy does, and her answer was, my daddy's a crackhead. That's not a good daddy. It was pretty rough. It's a small town. A lot of y'all probably knew me back then. And Some of you may not, and that's probably a good thing. But, you know, I went there and I started learning stuff about me, you know, what I'd done and how to fix it. Which main thing I found out is I can't fix anything, but I did learn somebody that could.
Yeah.
So, you know, I started really pushing into the Lord, and I had this guy I met down there. They have what's called a sociogram, where you go in this room and, you know, you sit in a horseshoe and these guys vote you positive or negative, you know, stuff.
It's accountability.
It's accountability thing about your attitudes and behaviors and things like that. And this 21-year-old boy, I was 42, a 21-year-old boy voted me negative relationship because I had not had anything to do. We didn't have nothing in common, you know. But I decided that day, I won't get that vote again. You know, because I had just mostly gotten positive votes in there. I was pretty relational with people. This boy ended up being a huge impact in my life because he said, hey, we need to, you know, I met with him one evening, you know, after work, and he said, we need to commit to meeting every morning and praying for our families. And I'm going to pray for your family. I said, well, my family ain't coming back. They're pretty mad at me. I mean, my family's probably done. But we started praying. Every morning, met at the same time, prayed for our families. Well, about 5 months into the program, you know, we worked on Saturday mornings, so I'm journaling before work, and right at the end of that journal, I said, Lord, what about Karen? I hadn't heard nothing from her in a while. And I had heard from her twice, 2 letters that were not good. Just everything was my fault, everything was a mess.
It was.
And it was because of me, you know, I caused it. But you know, the Lord said, when I asked that question, he said, I'm going to bring your wife to you. And I'm like, well, that was obviously me because I know Karen's not coming back. Not after what I did. There's no doubt about that. I closed that journal up, went to work. I ain't thought no more about it until the next morning, on Sunday morning. The Lord woke me up really extra early. I always got up early and was journaling, but this was extra early. And he was talking, you know, I was writing down what he's saying, and I'd had questions, and it's pretty awesome. If you really get to the point where you're safe and quiet and in this place where everything that you do pushes you to God, you will hear from God.
Yeah.
So, I can't never make it through this.
It's all right.
So on that Sunday morning, you know, all that's going on, I'm journaling. He, right there close to the end of the journal, I said, Lord, I need you to show me something about me and Karen. His only response was, amazingly, okay. I wrote it down in my journal, you know, God said, okay. I write the question down. You know, write the answer down. That's what we had to do because they read your journal to see how you're doing, you know, relationships and all. I didn't think nothing else about it. We went to Sunday school. There's a church, and, you know, everything happens right there on the campus of Dunklin so that you're safe. It is a safe place to work on your relationship with the Lord and other people, I found out later after this next part. But so 5.5 hours after that journal, I walked around the corner after Sunday school at church, and guess what? She's sitting there. And I'm thinking, okay, she's here to kill me. That's the first thing that hit my mind. I even said, what are you doing here? Because I'm expecting gunshots, you know. And she said, I don't know, but God brought me. And finding out, you know, we go back and, you know, after I find out she's not going to kill me. I'm like, I got to go tell the director, you're not supposed to even be here. Ex-wives can't be here. Well, they know the story because you have to tell them everything. Well, I go in walk right on up in church. Church is going on. I'm like, hey, my ex-wife is out there. And his response was, is she going to kill you? Because he knows that she should probably be right there to kill me. I said, I don't think so, not today, because she said God brought her here. And he was like, well, y'all just visit today and see what's going on, because I don't know what's going on. You know, they're a little bit nervous about the whole thing too. But we did. We visited that day, and it was really pretty amazing that we didn't fight and argue, and she seen somebody different, because I didn't know it, but a week or two or three, I don't remember, we was in the dining hall on a Sunday morning, and not only Karen showed up, but Laurel and Garrett showed up too, which was something out of the ordinary. Garrett had been there one time before, and it was in the beginning of the program, and all I wanted to do was, listen, I said this, hey, y'all need to get me out of here, because they don't even use the King James Version. Listen, I was trying anything to get out of the, you know what I mean? I wanted to go use drugs. That was, you know, when you're getting off of it, that's all you can think about for a while. But, you know, a change began to happen. And I ended up telling them at one point, hey, I want a burial plot out there, because I'm never leaving. You know, that's a big change from somebody that wanted to leave and go do drugs to, hey, I'm not ever leaving. I love this place. Well, you know, Karen came down like every 3 weeks in the beginning. We kind of dated long distance. She couldn't stay there because we're not married. And to tell you the truth, for once in our lives, we wanted to do something right, like it's supposed to be. Because we're not married. We're not doing the, you know. So we...
Your son is here.
The last 10 weeks of that program, she drove down there every week. Now that's 350 miles one way.
Wow.
I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. But we started going through the marriage classes and learning about each other and learning how to live in a marriage the way God wants you to live, and praying eye to eye, which is, I never made it through one of them prayers. Having to look her in the eye and pray for her after what I did. It was pretty rough, but hey, we learned in this whole process a different kind of love for one another. And not only that, other people. Because when you love like God loves you, there's not, you don't have to do nothing to earn that.
Yeah.
It just, you have it for people. So the day before the program, I graduated the program, we got remarried, which was an amazing thing, considering I should have been dead, and we got divorced, and now this woman that should be hating me is remarrying me again. This joker that did all this, you know. So that first song, I didn't even make it through the first part of it without crying, because when I look back, Garrett shouldn't be sitting in here. She shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have a relationship with my daughter and my granddaughters. If I had survived, they still shouldn't be having nothing to do with me. I mean, but God had a different plan. And he changed this guy that was 42 years old that really didn't like anybody, including himself, into somebody that loved everybody. Amazingly. But we went through a part of that program down there after the graduation. They offer a program that's called Family Development. So we moved there with Garrett. Now, he had another reason to be mad, because Garrett had to move down there and leave everything, leave family, friends, home, everything, to move down there to Okeechobee. Thank God that we were able to do that, because I doubt we would have made it. because she had to learn to live with somebody who wasn't a drug addict anymore, and she had never done that. And I'm a different person, but our issues were not over. We still had issues to work through, and some of them were, they were bad enough that we was on the main street in front of the church fighting like cats and dogs one day. Preacher comes by, "Hey, you love birds?" She said, "We ain't love birds." I don't know what you talking about.
Well,
Not today.
I had reached a point, though, that I wanted to get all the help we could get, and it wasn't going to be, easy at all, but they were offering it. I wanted to mention, too, that this place has been there for
62 years now.
Yeah, 62 years. A man in Okeechobee started this place 62 years ago, and it's grown over the years, and that's why they have what they call family development, which is, families actually come and stay there and live there. That's programs that happen way down the road, and, and they do have a church. They started with a tent in the middle of
a swamp.
Yeah, basically the middle of the swamp. And this man had the faith to start this program, and it actually started the year that you were born,
Yeah,
right?
1963.
Yeah, so
Wow.
which we thought was really cool.
And it saved my life 42 years later.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So we ended up, getting remarried and moving Garrett down there, and I started seeing I had issues. It wasn't just Al, but
What?
it was easier to look at him because crack cocaine, right? It's easy to look at him and not look at me. But while I was there, they had a program also that they offered called Inner Healing, and that program was offered to the wives. And
It also, the men had it in the program too, but the wives had a separate one that they went to.
Exactly. And so I started going through that program, and I'm like, man, I'm a mess. I've got way more issues than I ever thought I did. And I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, things that had happened to me that I didn't realize was affecting me in, my here and now life. So I really got a passion for that, for inner healing. I seen how much it was helping me, and Al did too. Yeah. I think Al got a new wife.
I got a new wife out of the whole thing. Yeah. Couldn't believe it.
For sure. And then I started visiting a program down the street from Dunklin called the Refuge Ranch, which was the women's program. So it was birthed out of Dunklin. A man started that program. He got a vision and started that program, and they made that place just a beautiful place for women to come they have been using drugs, they've been homeless, in prison, you name it, they've been there. And I just fell in love with them. The first time we went over to visit, I just fell in love with the women, because so many of the women had just awful, awful things happen to them. And, abuse, so much different kinds of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse in their childhood.
Abandonment.
Yeah, they've been
abandonment
abandoned.
is huge in families today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we ended up, I ended up going over and training while Al was going through his training at Dunklin. We decided, by the way, to sell out. When we got married, we were sold out to this ministry, and we knew God was calling us to be a part of it. We didn't know how things were going to end up. Like Kurt was saying, you don't really know the full plan. But we ended up down there for quite a while, and I trained over at the Refuge Ranch with the women, and I ended up going through the program. For a solid year, I went through what they went through, and just a whole deeper level of healing. And they do a lot of board exercises, a lot of looking at yourself, looking at your...
That's hard to do, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at yourself. It's easier to do that instead of doing that.
Yes, for sure. And so we ended up, long story short, we ended up at the refuge ranch. They called us and they wanted us to come and minister to the women and be a part of the ministry. And so the morning times was working with the women, with one-on-ones, board exercises, you name it, to help them through, to get healing from God. You're just the vessel, pretty much. And then Al worked on the property, and he actually taught the women how to fix cars and
lawnmowers and tractors and build stuff.
We
maintained everything on the property.
Wow. Yeah, he actually, and so we kind of became parental figures there also. Healthy parental figures that most of them have not had in their lives. A lot of them have not.
Right.
So during that process, we became the assistant directors. We've been there for quite some time. And this past year, Al and I started being called to start another program. Am I getting ahead of you?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
pause right there. I want to
Okay.
hear about, we've got, I think, 4 different ladies
Yes.
that we've got pictures. I want you to just tell us briefly
Okay.
about each of those.
So, just before I say something about these women, we know every one of them personally. We still keep in touch with them. That's one thing about the program that we love, is they become family. This is Bianca. Bianca came to us. You can see the bruise on her eye, battered and bruised. She had been in prison so many times. That's one of her prison pictures, or her arrest pictures, and just one out of many, many. In the picture beside her, she was an IV user, by the way. She ended up being an IV user. The picture beside her is her family. This is her now. She's gotten married. They have their own business now. Her daughter was a part of her program. They actually did parenting classes, and they were restored. And then her and her husband have a son. So you see the beauty, and she graduated in 2014. She's still walking it out. I mean, she's doing great.
Really good.
So this is Courtney. Courtney was homeless, living out of her car, an IV user also, when she came to us. And these ladies all went through a year-long program, by the way.
Yeah, it's a process to get that healing that they need and be able to learn how to walk it out.
Yeah.
Because it's tough. You know how it is out there in the community right now. It's easy to fall back into it.
Yeah.
So since the program, Courtney has gotten married also. She had her daughter Layla, and her and her husband have their baby, 2 daughters now, and he's adopted Layla, and they're doing great. She actually she's running her own Panera Bread. She runs it. Wow. And she actually, when she got a job, they didn't hire people with felonies, and she has one, and they actually hired her, and it was nothing but God. But then after that, she was able to hire women coming out of the program. So, God, I just think that's really cool how God works in all of that. So you can go to the next one. This is Caitlin. If you see her, she looks totally different. The pictures just say it all. She has 2 daughters. By the way, we all just fall in love with the kids, and the kids love us too. It's kind of a bonus that we get.
Yeah,
Like a bunch of grandkids.
The kids get to come out on Saturday afternoons and visit and start. God starts restoring the families, because most of them, they have seen the worst of the worst in their parent. So it's a pretty amazing process that happens.
Yeah, she's from down south. Also, I think she was a meth user.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go. This is Megan. Megan came to us through prison, and she's one that I fought for on the phone. I called the judge. I called the judge's secretary. I was a squeaky wheel. I mean, I stayed on the phone calling them because, I don't know, the Lord just laid her on my heart heavy, and I just kept fighting for her to get her sentenced to the program instead of going back to prison. She had been in jail many, many times. They ended up, we prayed and prayed and prayed, and they ended up sentencing her to the program. She actually worked at the Refuge Ranch also. She ended up working there. She met Keith. Keith was at Dunklin and went through the program at Dunklin. Oh. So both of them have backgrounds of addiction, but y'all see they're two beautiful little kids, and they just run to us and love us to pieces.
You'd think we're their grandparents.
We just love them all, but we they are actually about to be. I better not say that on video, but they're going to be doing something really cool before long. So we're excited for them. Yeah, a lot of these girls have a calling on their lives too. Yeah. They end up having a calling, and so this is just 4 out of many women.
Yeah, Karen sent me, I don't know, 40 different pictures of people, and I was like, we got to narrow it down. So these are just a few of many examples of what they did down south. But you're not down there anymore.
Right.
So God gave you a vision, a calling to come back to Perry, your hometown, because, I could think of many reasons why God might do that. One, you've been through it, and you know how to help people through it. 2, there's nobody doing this here that I'm aware of. Right. If they are, they're top secret. That doesn't make any sense.
Not a Christian program.
Yeah, not a Christian program. Right. So you're back here now. We'll kind of fast forward through that process for sake of time. But how long have you been back, and what have you been doing since you got here?
We've been back for almost a year. And since we've been back, we have been nonstop trying to raise funds for a piece of property. We feel like we may have found a piece of property. God only knows for sure, but it is a beautiful piece of property. It has 18 acres of land. It has a home on it, which we could actually go ahead and house about 4 women out the door.
Yeah, that would speed up the process of being able to help people.
Yeah.
Instead of buying property, have to clear it and build, all that is extremely time consuming.
So we're doing a lot of fundraising. We're actually having a auction. We've done some cake auctions, and we raised about we raised $6,000 with our last cake auction. Cake dinner gift auction is what we call it. We're having one on the 25th of this month. We've gotten very creative on how to raise funds. So we're having an event, a dinner theater show, and we're using some Taylor County people that are going to be in the show. We're all excited about that.
What's the date for the
8th
show?
and 9th of September.
Okay.
You can go through Eventbrite to order tickets. So things like that. Helps us to be able to raise the funds to do what we're doing, to bring this ministry here.
Now, you've had some meetings with different ladies since you've been here, and you've been having some classes.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yes. I've been doing some inner healing classes for ladies outside of addiction, just ladies that have trauma in their lives, or they need healing for something in their lives. It could be, from your childhood, your parents may have divorced, and you felt like you were the problem. It could be sexual abuse. It could be any kind of trauma, anything. And just because, I say traumas, not necessarily do we think of things always as a trauma, but it does affect our lives, and most women know when they need it. They know when they need to get some healing in their lives, and it's through God's truth that we give, we are able to give healing. But we've been doing some classes, group classes, and they've been going really good. We're actually in the middle of doing 2 classes right now. And I'm having more and more calls. I'm doing a lot of one-on-ones, women coming and, sitting with women and going through healing with them also.
So so if there's somebody who may be watching this, or maybe who's here at our church today, that maybe they don't have an addiction, but they just feel like they need some help with some things.
Yeah.
You don't have to be addicted to something,
Right.
to get help from this ministry. Like she was talking about the inner healing classes. I've talked to so many people that have been through Dunklin and been through that, and it changed their life completely. I mean, and that didn't have anything to do with addictions.
Right.
Yeah.
We just want to encourage everybody, especially if you're watching this online, to reach out. We're going to give you that information in a minute, but it's not just for addiction and the big bad things we normally think about. It could be anything that you just got like a hang up of some kind that you just can't get past it. These kinds of classes that they do dig into that kind of stuff and get to the source of it, because
Absolutely.
I know in my own life, I had some hang-ups that, well, for one, I didn't even know I had until they show up.
Right.
And then all the counseling that I went through, we found out there's things in the past that contribute to that we would have never made that connection.
Right.
And that's what these classes help do. I actually went to one of their events recently and heard a local lady kind of get up and tell her testimony. She was going through some of these classes, and as far as I know, there's no big ugly addiction problem in her life at all.
No.
She's a regular person, but she started going to these classes, and it's just changed her life. And doing good things for their marriage and all kinds of stuff like that. So I just want to be clear that this isn't just an addiction thing. That's one kind of leg of it, but it could be anything.
Right.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, how can people get involved in what you're doing now? Because most of us are not trained to go do what you're going to do.
Right.
But we have, in our church family, the way we kind of think about it is our church doesn't want to go recreate the wheel. So, I mean, obviously churches need to be doing things for people that have addictions or people that have something going on in their marriage or their parenting. We need to serve people like that. But with our church, we don't want to go create a ministry somebody else already has.
Right.
So what we want to do is figure out, how do we help people who are doing that already and make sure they can do it. So not only as a church or organization, which we call it a family, but how can people in our community help you right now?
Well, of course, we do need, we are trying to raise funds, to buy the property, but also prayer, and just like when we have events and stuff like that, we ask people to donate cakes or whatever, like the dinner, like the event we got coming up with the cakes and meals, like people will do like a casserole for a family, and people bid on it. It's pretty cool how it works. It's really good food too. But this whole thing is, we can't fix anybody, but we know that the Lord can, and it's about pushing them to the Lord. And in this whole process, you kind of start building an army of people to help the community, because if y'all looking around the community, you know it needs some help. But one person, 10 people, 20 people, we won't be able to solve the problem. But if you get an army going, which is basically what Dunklin did down there over 62 years, is they've created an army of people that work. They're headed in the same direction. Let's help people get into a better relationship with the Lord. The Lord showed me one time while I was down there that I'm like, Lord, why is nothing else happening in my life? He said, because you're standing there like this. You're holding everything that I've given you. And I can't put nothing else in that hand while it's like that. You got to do it like this. If you do it like that and you give away what I've given you, I'll give you more to give away. So that's what we do. You know, the Lord just keeps. Listen, we ain't got time for me to tell you everything that the Lord's done in our lives and the way He's taking
Kurt's
care of
about
us.
to cut you off, I can tell.
Because I could go on and on about the things God's done in our lives and the way He's taken care of us and restored not just my immediate family, but extended family and people in my family that I would have bet you my last dime would not be in a relationship with the Lord is in a relationship with the Lord. All because they seen this drug addict go to a program, a Christ-centered program, and it changed him. Somebody they thought would never change. It changed him. And so they're like, there really is God. If he's not a drug addict and that person anymore, God is definitely real. So they started pushing into that, and now they have a relationship with
spreading
the Lord.
Spreading the word.
Spread
the word is a huge thing for us, to spread the word that we're here, we're trying to, get this thing going. And our phone number's up on the board, up on the screen, and we brought some brochures, and you can take one of those, and our number's on the back. You can call us if you have any questions at all. Mm-hmm. We're more than happy to answer any questions you might have about our program. We are gonna, we do want to emulate what we come from, and that's a year-long program. Right. So it is going to be long-term and safe. It's going to be a place of refuge. One of the things, do I have time to say just one more thing?
Are you going to share the Bible? No, we don't do
It's
that.
short.
Yes, absolutely.
This is, the Lord He won't leave me alone about this, but this Bible was given to me by a mother, and her daughter died from addiction. And I carry this Bible everywhere I go. Her name was Amber. And this is one of the main reasons we do this, is so that women will not die. Women are dying from addiction, and they need help. And we are the ones coming to try to do this. We need your help. We need the community's help. Yeah. Two are great, but like Al said, we need an army of people to help. Amber came to our program. She didn't stay. Not everybody does. Many, many women do. But one thing that Amber got out of our program was salvation. While she was there, she accepted the Lord as her personal Savior, and she walked out of there. And one more time, she had a heart issue from using, and her parents, don't mind me telling this, they're behind me 100%. But she died right when she shot up, the last time she shot up, but we know where she went. Not every, story is a great story to tell, but that's why we're doing what we do,
Well, I think the thing that's standing out to me in the last 45 minutes is you keep coming back to your relationship with God.
Yes.
And how this whole thing is Christ-centered.
Yes.
And we know, we're believers here. We know we've tried all kinds of things to fix our problems, but it's when we come back to Him as the source of everything for us, the source of life, the source of blessing, the source of everything. That's where it starts to change us.
Right.
And to me, this has been. I've sent people to Dunklin in the past. Every person that I sent there came back a different person. Yeah. The people who stayed and went through the whole program. So I know this works, and I know that you're bringing what you've learned there here. Right. So personally, I'm behind you 100%. And we don't know what the future holds. There's a nice 18-acre property with a house turnkey ready to start. But it takes a lot of money to get it. Right. And I understand that too. Our church is is needing space at some point, so we
Right.
understand. But we have no idea what God's going to do. And so what I would like to commit to you this morning, for one, for our people here, instead of giving to our church today, give to this ministry. So whatever you had planned to give, or maybe you hadn't even had a plan, but while you've been sitting here, God's been saying, I want you to give something. Don't give it to our church today. Give it to Under His Wings. Our church right now, financially, you could all stop giving today. Now, you need to start back next week. But
Well, be careful.
we believe in what's going on here, and they are part of our family. I mean, they're not here on Sundays a lot because they're at other churches doing this, trying to get the word out, and we're fully supportive of that. So don't give to us this week, give to them. And on Wednesday night, we have our little Bible study on Wednesday night, and sometimes we make church family decisions. We're going to have a discussion about making another donation to your ministry, and our church family will decide how much that's going to be. So I can't tell you yet.
Right.
I hadn't asked them yet, but we'll commit to that. We'll be sending you something else. If you didn't know, we help them get started with their 501c3. That costs some money, a few $1,000s to get that started, and we had a couple meetings, and I was like, yeah, we can help you get that done. So
It was an awesome thing too, by the way, Kurt, because we know people that's taken a year or more to get it, and like we had it in like
We had ours
21 days.
That was God
Something. It
in
was
itself.
amazing.
yeah,
how it worked
so
out.
luckily I had found a group that gets it done a lot faster, and that's how we got ours done. So led them to the same place, to ministrylaunch.com, and they're a great group of
Yes,
people.
They really are. They've been very helpful too since then. I mean, they're
Yeah.
a very helpful group.
So if you want to give and support them, just get with them after the service, or I guess they can make a check out to Under His Wings.
Absolutely.
And in the future, they're going to have a website with an easy way to give and all that stuff. I'm actually going to try to help you with that.
Yeah.
Get that going. So you can give that way, but if you can't do that, maybe you're in a position right now where giving money is not the thing you can do. Please put them on your daily prayer list.
Yeah.
Because we need this to happen in our town. We all know that there's serious drug problems. We all know that there's serious marriage problems. All of that is going on in our community, and there's really nothing going on to change it. This is a solution that God has brought back to our town, and I'm really excited about it. And I
We
think
are
all
too.
of our church family is too. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank y'all
spending the
very
day,
much.
Appreciate
a
it.
day with us. We believe in you, and we think God's going to do big
Thank you.
things.
Awesome.
Amen.
Thank you.